What's up, fellow lords of gaming, and welcome back to another episode of Marvel Future Fight. Thank you for joining the channel. So let's talk about it. We got maintenance coming up in 12 hours, and it is going to be a rather lengthy update at about 9 hours. Yeah, so that's going to be a long update. Anyways, we're going to get into the patch notes for the update here, which I'm calling Black Swan or female dark side. You know, she's got those omega beams and everything else that's basically coming in. So let's talk about it. So the update actually looks pretty damn good. Let's get that right off the rip. Like, I took a look at these update details, and I was pleasantly surprised. I must say, absolutely surprised. All right, so we are getting a new character basically in Black Swan. So let's take a look at this one over here. So Black Swan, I think, is going to be a really interesting one because the way we're going to obtain her is through the new World Boss Legend Plus. She's going to be the first in the character. As so, she's going to be a native tier 3. She's getting the World Boss Legend status. You can see here that she's going to be a speed supervillain. It's going to be really weird to see that we get a speed supervillain that's going to be a native tier 3. Speed's not necessarily a class that has received a lot of love. Her skills looked absolutely amazing in the live stream last night. Yeah, I thought it was really good. So anyways, I think it's good that since they're not taking her to tier 4 immediately anyways, that they gave her the ability, the leadership, where she's going to be able to, you know, debuff, removes all debuffs. So that way she at least has some viability in terms of you wanting to race to get her. So that way you can put her inside of Otherworld Battle, or I guess you could sort of probably put her inside of Timeline Battle as well. I'm not exactly up high on the idea of putting tier 3s inside Timeline Battle, or, you know, but it's not like I focus a whole lot on PvP battle in the game anyways. But let's take a look at some of the other skills. So she's going to get Brutal Incursion. She gets an additional pierce damage by 5%. She's also decreasing basic damage received by 40%. And then when she's below 40, she ignores basic damage for 7 seconds, increases basic damage by 10% for every basic damage that's ignored up to 60%, and decreases all damage received by 10%. This looks like a big, like, wall buff. Like, she's just basically just like, fuck that at level 40. And this is probably a good thing that it's 120-second cooldown. We'll have to see what kind of damage she can mete out in that time, so that way she's basically allowed to survive. But she's on her uncompromising precision, she's going to get a 50% chance to penetrate. Super armor, increase all basic defenses by 50%, the skill damage and bonus damage by 45. Not bad overall. You can see here it reactivates in 3 seconds after it's removed, so that's kind of cool. Like, yeah, she's got a lot going on. Nothing really on the first skill. Second skill, Doomsday Gaze, active 2. She is a counterattack skill. So 3RL didn't really show that this was a counterattack skill on the stream, so I'm interested to see how it looks. But burn, stun, removes active buff from the target, paralysis, the 100% chance to grant all damage immunity, still keeping with that high defense, and the target, the ignore targeting is target effects. So basically she's ignoring iframes, right? Death pirouette. These last skills 3, 4, and 5 looked absolutely amazing. The VFX on them really cool. So she gets the recovery for 25% HP and the accumulation of 10% of the pure damage when attacking, 1.3%. So I'm really dying to see how this character plays, especially with the hits. Fracture, incapacitation. She is the invincible barrier. And then on the 5th skill, Dance of the Black Swan, we basically get increase all basic attacks and defense, 65, 5, and 35. So her kit is looking really good. Like, I have to say, like, I'm hoping that it measures up to what they're asking us to put in for being able to unlock her, which, by the way, brings up a point. Today, when the game resets, do not play World Boss. Like, don't play World Boss, you're better off leaving most of the content unattended to. Don't play it, just leave it alone, and play it tomorrow. I know that's kind of hard to say because the update is going to take so damn long, basically, so like you're only on limited time to basically play it the day after, but like at the very minimum, don't touch World Boss, because yeah, just don't do it. And there's going to be unlock conditions looking seemingly like to story mode as well, so be careful about doing those. Like for some of the new World Boss unlocks, it was like you had to clear like certain stages inside the story mode, so try to be careful of that. Like really try to be careful of that. I'd warn that. So let's take a look at Thanos. So Thanos, along with him receiving a new uniform, he is going to receive some buffs to Wise Harvester. So I don't know which one I'm more excited about, the fact that he's getting a new uniform that looks absolutely amazing, or the fact that they're also taking the time to give his Wise Harvester uniform some buffs. Like, I'm excited about that. I don't know why, but I am genuinely excited about the fact that they recognize that they're going in there and doing an update to this character, and we've only just received, you know, within the past year, this Wise Harvester uniform, but they're going to give some buffs to this character. So I'm pretty happy about that. So let's take a look at some of these buffs inside here. So excuse me. So first buff is going to be on his harvest day. So we can see here, this was the previous right here. So basically what they've said they're going to do is they're going to increase the overall hit count, right? So that's always really what matters the most, right, is the hit counts. Then we're also going to get a buff to the all basic defense right here. So this is going to be 45% instead of 25%. So nice buff there overall. So that's the first one. Nothing major necessarily, right? Cooldown times remain the same, just the hits. We'll have to see how the hits look. So then Soil Till is going to receive an update as well. This one is going to have the hit counts improved as well. I didn't really notice any major changes here. Like, to be perfectly honest, the numbers pretty much all look the same, so I nothing necessarily to write home about on that skill. We'll have to see how the hits are affected, but no major changes on this one. Like, basically that's it. And then his fifth skill, the hits are also going to be increased. Nothing major here either. Like I am interested to see how it's gonna impact with those hit counts being increased. He was already a pretty decent, good enough PvE type character inside here. I think he could be better. Like, people were using him in Giant Boss Raid. He was able to clear Giant Boss Raid really easily. So I'm really interested in that. Now, the uniform that we're going to get is definitely a more upgraded versions of the Obsidian King, because old King Thanos, right? And I'm kind of anticipating that one a lot, because I really like Wise Harvester looked like a good uniform, you know, in terms of like where they were going for the time, but realistically I'm really more pressed about like Thanos basically being here. Now, sadly, right, this is probably a more PvP focused uniform. So the new uniform that's coming is more PvP focused. The reason why I feel bad about that is because half the time when I'm playing PvP, and I think most players do, is just put it on auto and you walk away. So you don't really play with those characters as much as you would say inside like Giant Boss Raid or World Boss Legend. Then you're actually playing the characters, and you pretty much set a rotation of characters that you're going to basically use, and that's the end of it. So we'll have to see what that looks like at the end right there. So anyways, let's take a look at the skills that we basically have for here, and changes that they're going to be between these between the upgrades basically. So uniform effect, right? So we get 5. There's going to be a basic little increase right here to 55 on this one. HP below 0 is going to still stay the same. It's 70% of his HP, and that's it. So nothing major in terms of that, right? So just a 55% decreased basic damage, and he still keeps the 70%, right? So then Endless Void, I didn't see any changes necessarily on the Endless Void skill. It still basically reads the same, additional 30. So I didn't yeah, there was nothing really changed here. Like, so I thought when 3RL was showing it last night, the skill looked the same, but I was thinking maybe the reason why he was showing it was because like maybe there were some additions, but not really. So then we go over to his leadership skill, right? So here we get you can see the leadership skill here was a 50-40. It's still a 50-40, and he just gets the debuff to supervillain allies for 12 seconds. I think pairing him with Black Swan and then basically being able to, you know, like, because you're going to basically be able to use Black Swan over like Strife or Wasp basically inside there. So nothing really changed on his skill. The original skill was called Mad Reflection, so I think that's where they're holding it, but it's still Enlightened Advice. Like, that's what we have. So you can see like where we're going in tandem with the uniform, the Wise Harvester, where essentially this is probably realistically is more like a twofer basically for the uniforms. No, you know, no real distinction between them. It's like when we got Loki's uniforms, right? So here we are. So now we get to Titan Agriculture is now going to be called Warp Blast. So this new Warp Blast, or the new active 1 seal, is actually going to ignore targeting. So that's like kind of cool, right? Stun is still there, but it's increased for 3 seconds. We remove all buffs from the target on a 1 skill. Then we get a recovery on a 1 skill of 25% HP. That's like, for real? Like, that's crazy to me, right? On a 1 skill, we get the 25. So you're definitely gonna have to play around with this rotation on this character and definitely see if it's gonna activate on this skill. Like, but that's just absolutely insane and bonkers to me. So then we get the you get the 100% chance to penetrate super armor, barrier, shield, all damage, immune, invincible effects, and removes all debuffs for 2 seconds. This is all on a 1 skill. A 1 skill. Like, this is like usually a throwaway skill. Like, I'm not tapping into the 1 skill, you know what I mean? But apparently with Thanos, we will be. Pest control is now changed to Twilight of Titans. Nothing really here. We get the burn on this skill, 30% fire damage on it, and then we get stun is on here instead of snare, and the stun is for 3 seconds. The energy damage is decreased a little bit because we're going to 95% of physical attack, and it's still the additional 504 energy. So just changes away. So that remove active debuff. Yeah. Move the active buff from the target. Yeah, so move to the 1. Like, it's moved to the 1 skill. Crazy as hell. I didn't think of like a 1 skill. It was crazy to me when I read that. So then we get Harvest Day is going to be changed to Summon Vengeance. So this was the skill where Ghost Rider joins in from the fray. I didn't necessarily like the way the skill looked, just because he's like coming in from the side. He's hardly visible, especially in comparison to the size of Thanos and the fire effect that's going on. But, you know, whatever, it's there. So Summon Vengeance has the burn obviously on it, additional 50% fire damage, decreases all basic defense. He also has the paralysis, which ignores the immunity, and then he gets the self-activating buff that we see here with an increase. So it goes to 45, 10, and 30, which gives you the reasoning why on Wise Harvester that was upgraded to 45, right? So now it's like you've got a PvE version of Thanos and a PvP version of Thanos. And then you get the 100% chance to grant all damage immunity as well. Still remains the same. It's down ticked a little bit from here on this uniform because the energy damage is only 45% of the physical attack, but he does get an inverse additional 1,000 energy damage, 1,007 energy damage on the scale as well. So from 101 to 1,000, and from 115 down to 45. Again, I'm not really great on the math, but if I had to think about it, it's like a 1-for-1 basically. Like, if I decrease by half and then multiply that over and you compare the numbers, I'm pretty sure they weight balance out each other. Not going to do the math here, right? Anyways, Soil Till is now going to be Twilight of the Multiverse. So Thanos did not have this previously on his skill, and to my knowledge, the only character that did have time freezing on his skill was Doctor Strange. but now Thanos is getting time freezing, which lasts for 3 seconds, which applies to enemies. So no time freezing here, but time freezing will be on Twilight of the Multiverse's tier 4 skill. So along with that, he gets to burn fire damage again. Every 1 second, decrease all basic defense by 50%, and then we get the incapacitation on this skill as well, which removes the active buff from the target. Applying to self, he gets the frenzy buff, where he's increasing all basic attacks by 50, 60, and 1, and then we get the energy damage with this 50% of physical attack, and we get a additional 672% energy damage. So like the question here really, I guess, is going to be like, is that buff basically from the frenzy what's basically dealing most of the damage now inside of it? So since we have a frenzy buff on this one, essentially, like that's where we're getting most of the damage, right? So his 5th skill, Scarecrow of Enlightenment, is going to be called Seasoned Slayer. He gains stun for 3 seconds, fracture for 5 seconds, incapacitation, which removes the active buff again. So he's basically like, we can see he is PvP. Like, yeah, he's PvP. Decrease all basic defense by 8%, stacks up to 60% for the ignore immunity. And then we get invincible for 5 seconds, immunity to all debuffs, excluding bosses, ignores enemies damage decreased by 30%, and then energy damage 90% of physical attack, and additional 96 energy damage. So a lot of changes on this, and you notice that there is no, on his new skill, on his new list of skills, there's no damage accumulation or anything like, you know, where we have here. So he's really looking like he's going to be, this is Thanos PvP. The question is going to really be whether or not he can keep up with the likes of some of the Reflect characters like Adam Warlock and Silver Surfer in the current meta. You know, with some of these buffs, mostly buff removals in here, I'm dying to see how well he does against those characters. Like, I don't even see in here, for instance, like any other than that 25% HP recovery. There's not a whole lot of HP recovery in there other than well, I guess the uniform effect as well, but it's every 100 seconds. I don't know if that's going to be enough for him to, you know, keep up in the current meta, but I'm dying to see. You know, you got to test it out. Everything looks great on paper till you end up testing it out. Like, that's just the truth of the matter. Like, it just really is. So let's take a look. Next up is Angel. Let's be honest, anything for Angel was going to be an upgrade. I really did like this uniform for Angel. Pretty cool looking. Angel is actually going to be the T4 of the update. So I think that besides Beast is the only one that doesn't have a T4 in my to my knowledge right now, basically, of the original X-Men. That puts him in that wheelhouse. So we'll see where he goes, but he's getting a play on April Fool's uniform with Satana. So he's going to become the devil. She's going to become the angel, right? So we'll have to see how that works out. But I didn't necessarily like the way his uniform, not the way his uniform looked, but I didn't necessarily care for the character, like in terms of like the skills, the VFXs that they showed. So his uniform effect is going to be the dodge rate increase right here to 30 and the 50% increased recovery rate. Well, guess what? They just changed that to remove all debuff skills on his uniform. It applies 20-second cooldown, but this becomes his leadership essentially, right? So if we go back to this and then we look at his skills and you basically look at his leadership, it's weird, right? So I was laughing about it when I actually took a look at it, because they basically just swapped the two. They swapped the uniform effect and his leadership, and that's it. Like, what the fuck? Okay, what were they thinking? For real? Like, they just basically swapped like the leadership and the uniform effect. So it's like, is this an April Fool's thing? Like, you know, like we're just trying to be funny, or is this like a reason for me to be pissed because it's piss poor optimization? Like, we're buying a uniform that already had the uniform effect and leadership that was already there underneath the other uniform. I don't know how to take it. You know what I mean? Like, I really don't know how to take it. So anyways, let's go into his next skill. So passives, right? So we had the enhanced wing is now called Dark Judgment. It still keeps the 20, 35, and then the 40 and the 20, and the skill damage by 40 and the bonus damage by 20 is increased to 50 and 45. So big bonus there, 10%, and then an additional 25% on the bonus damage inside there. So decent upgrades there. His other skill is Winged Prayer, this passive right here. So this one keeps the super armor and is still there at 40%, but he gains the ignore target's dodge rate by 30% on that skill. So now let's take a look at his first skill. Nothing really on Winged Rush, and that skill is going to be called Devil Charge. Nothing really there as well. It's just stun for 3 seconds, and the physical damage is 85, but we get an increase from the additional damage to 207. So next up, we've got Feather Assault is now going to be called Hellish Descent. You get Burn, which is 30% fire. You keep the Fracture on there. You keep the Paralysis as well. And then you get the physical damage is 90%, but the additional damage is going to be 331. So definitely an increase there overall, right? So then we get Holy Blade. So it's funny because she gets the Holy Blade and it looks a lot better than his skill, right? So Holy Blade is now going to be called Angel's Fall. He gets Bleed. Incapacitation removes active buff. He gets a 100% chance to grant all damage immunity, which was already there, and then he gets the accumulation, which has been seriously buffed because it was only 0.5%. Now it's going to be 1% increase to pure damage. And then we get the physical damage is going to be 58% of physical attack and only an additional 21 physical damage. Dying to see how that's going to basically pan out inside there. I'm assuming a lot of that is basically on the fact that the accumulation is being buffed as significantly as it is. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Hopefully it doesn't feel like a nerf. Anyways, Demon Feather is going to be his next skill, and that one has the burn. He keeps the paralysis. He gains decrease all basic defenses by up to 50%. He keeps the recovery of 25% HP, the invincible, and he keeps the increased basic damage as well. The physical damage is 65% of physical attack, and then an additional 166. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Next up, we get Luminous Blast. Luminous Blast is going to be his Voice of the Corrupted skill. So he keeps the silence, he keeps the incapacitation, he keeps the recovery of 35% HP, and he gets a boost to the frenzy buff, which is going to be 60, 1, and 50. And then the physical damage is 92% of physical damage and an additional 166 of physical damage. So that's, either way you look at it, that's a buff for the character. I just don't like the swapping of the uniform effect and the leadership. Like, why? I don't get it. Realistically, to be perfectly honest with you, like, the leadership buff is like at least at where it was. Yeah, I don't know. To look at this and be like, hey, look, we had the all allies, the buff right here to remove all debuffs. Basically, that's a good use of the skill because you can throw him in there with the likes of now Black Swan, Strife and those characters. But now essentially you want that, you either have to have this uniform and leave him at that for tier 4, or you just purchase this uniform and it's included in the uniform effect. They should have just left it on his leadership, in my opinion, and kept the other uniform effect exactly where it was. If that was all they were going to do was swap them around. Just feels like that uniform effect doesn't really become like I purchased a new uniform effect. It was already there. You know what I mean? So I don't know how I feel about that one. Anyways, he also gains his tier 4. Like I said, I don't see a lot of people tier 4ing Angel. Let's just be honest. He's a speed male. I just don't see it happening anyways. But increase all basic attack by 80%. He decreases damage received from reflex attacks by 100%. And he has the effect to reflect all attacks for 3 seconds, and he recovers 10% of his HP on his 4. This makes him interesting, right? It definitely makes him interesting in that aspect. It's a really small window for him to do a reflect all attacks at 3 seconds, but it does make him interesting. I have to say that. Oh, I also forgot Black Swan's tier 3. Not a whole lot to write home about. It's just like fear, silence, incapacitation. She gets the invincible for 8 seconds and increased basic damage by 100% for 1 attack. The skill does look absolutely amazing. Like every skill she has looks absolutely amazing. Like, I'm not even kidding you. Like, she is bombastic. The VFX on her definitely make me want to get her, definitely make me want to play her. I just wish she was a tier 4 character. Like, I'm hoping that she's a native tier 3, so my hope is that in the mid-month she gets a tier 4, because I really want to play with this character. Like, she looks that damn good in terms of her skills. I really want to play, and I'm not usually like a proponent. I don't usually play female characters as much, you know what I mean? So like, not my thing. Next up is Satana, and I can't spell or use my cap locks key, so just deal with me there. So Satana is now going to be an angel. Like, that's the crazy thing, right? She's going to be an angel, man. Like, so they made her, now she's going to be a sneaky little minx, to be honest with you. So let's take a look at that. So her uniform, right? Let's take a look at this. So this was her previous uniform that I never purchased. So this is really the one that we should be comparing to. Nothing on the uniform, just enhance the skill damage, right? So it was one of the reasons why I never really purchased the uniform at all, right? So we could take a look at her skills on this one realistically. So let's take a look at her skills anyways. Anything for Satana, these uniforms are that old, was going to be an upgrade for her. So on this new uniform effect, all allies increase damage to all element damage by 35%. Her new leadership, right? So you can see here was Hellfire Fury, increased fire damage by 70%. She still keeps that, right? So like, it wasn't worth me purchasing this uniform just for that. It just wasn't. But this uniform for her is going to be worth purchasing, and it's going to be in the token shop. So you're going to have to get her new uniform via tokens. So remember, Angel and Satana's uniform are seasonal uniforms. Okay, so make sure you get in there and purchase those uniforms if you really need them. Next up is going to be her passive. So her tier 2 passive is going to be called Angel's Wrath, and that one's going to have increased chain hit damage by 10% when attacking, ignore target's dodge rate by 25%, increase skill damage by 30%, and increases bonus damage by 20%. Now, her other skill, passive Devil's Daughter, is going to be called Aura of the Noble, and that one's going to have a 30% increase of energy attack and a decreased basic damage received by 25%. So notice that the recovery effect of the 25% HP is basically moved, and when we look at the 4th skill, you're going to basically see that 25% HP basically move there. So let's take a look at her first skill. Nothing really on her first skill, it's just fire damage, Angel Flame. Then we get her second skill, which is going to be called Arrow of Salvation. So that was a pretty cool looking skill. She gets a you see here she had a recovery of 5% HP. No recovery effect on that one anymore, right? So now that one has burn, paralysis, and fire damage, 130% of energy attack, and additional 134. So her third skill is going to be called Flame of Purification, and on that one she gets burn, she gets a barrier for 10 times and increased all basic attack by 30%, fire damage 110, additional fire damage 83. Raining Flames is going to be called Judgment Sword, and that skill looked absolutely amazing to me. Like, it was beautiful. You see how empty this skill was in terms of there. So anything, like I said, for Satana is going to be a buff at this point. She gets burn, silence for 3 seconds, incapacitation, decrease all basic defenses up to 50%. The recovery of 25% HP is here. She gets to increase all basic attack and defense by 31 and crit rate by 30. She gets 100% chance to grant all damage immunity. She gets fire damage 110 and an additional fire damage of 119. So no matter how you look at this character, you can see what I mean. Like, anything was going to be a buff. It's just nice to see Satana essentially getting a transcendence as well. I really want to play with her because the VFX on her 3, 4, 5 skills are absolutely amazing. She gets a V-pad on her 5th skill. of V-Pad. So Diabolic Succubus becomes Grand Atonement, and the skill looks like they ripped it straight out of Diablo or something like that. It looked absolutely amazing. I cannot wait to play with it. I'm only saddened by the fact that she's only going to be a transcendent character, but hopefully a powerful transcendent character. But basically it's V-Pad skill, burn. She gets burn, she gets snare, which is only for 2 seconds, so a decrease there from the 5 seconds. She gets charm. That's nice. I didn't realize charm was going to be on that 5th skill, and so that's 25% mind damage every 1 second and recovery equal to 50% of dot damage. So that's the reason why she basically has that. So that's up to a 30% of max HP. So this is going to be a really good skill. Like I wasn't paying attention to that last night. That's really cool. Yeah, I can't wait to see her, see like her kit look beautiful, absolutely amazing. Applies to self invincible for 6 seconds and increase basic damage by 50% for 1 attack and fire damage by 90%. So she is receiving a transcendence, her and Damian Hellstrom. I will say this, I hate to see characters receive awakenings without receiving uniforms, or uniforms without awakenings or level ups. I just hate to see it, but this is what their skills are. Basically copy paste, you know, crit rate, crit reese. We've seen these basically all before, you know, it's the same thing, copy paste all the time for these transcendent skills. I hate to see the characters receive transcendence. Like, to be honest with you, if all you were gonna do was just apply across the board the copy paste routine of transcendence and stuff like that, I know VFX skills and things like that have to go into them. I'd rather see you just give the damn characters transcendent skills or something like that, or like the striker skill to say that they were transcendent, and that was it. Like, it's just like, I don't know. I get it. Yeah, I get it. Now the skills look absolutely amazing. Like I said, all of the skills in this VFX update, in these uniform updates this month, you can tell they were definitely putting in some work. Like, these skills look absolutely amazing. Like, I cannot wait to play as Satana. Like, out of all the characters, I'm most excited about Black Swan and Satana inside this update because they just look that damn good. Really excited about them. I am 100%. Now the next changes basically come in the form of World Boss. So let's take a look at those overall, is what the changes are. So this refresh is going away. Well, not going away, but they're changing the way it is. So now, instead of having to refresh this and then landing on like a boss that, you know, you don't really want inside World Boss Ultimate or something, they're going to split World Boss Ultimate and World Boss Legend up here in today's World Boss. So that way, basically, when you rotate, it's only the characters from here. So like, this is great because I'm not really playing Ultimate anymore, so I only play Legend. So I really only want access to these 5 characters up here, you know, 6 characters, 1 2 3, yeah, 6 characters. I only want access to these 6 characters, so it'll only rotate between those 6 characters. That's good. I'm happy about that. You know what I mean? Now, so that's really good. But the big change in here is that they're adding Black Swan as World Boss Legend. She's going to be World Boss Legend Plus, though. So it's the first World Boss Legend Plus that we receive inside here. And so she's going to be more powerful than everybody else. We didn't really get to see any of the mechanics for the battle because 3RL, I guess something went wrong there with him being able to play it. But I don't feel necessarily that bad, and it's not necessarily his fault. He was excited about the update, you could tell. Anyways, but basically we're gonna have to unlock some challenges to unlock this. So here goes the way you have to unlock that World Boss unlock stage. So number 1, let me see if I can pull this up over here. So number 1, you're gonna have to complete story stage A3. This is why I said don't complete any story stages, right? Don't do it. Then you're gonna have to own 3 or more tier 4 heroes. So it was great that they put this advancement method so that way you could actually obtain tier 4 characters, you know, everybody at writ large, through the new tier 4ing system that they had. Then you have to clear all the world boss challenges. So you can see here we're gonna have to defeat Gore 5 times, you're gonna have to defeat Dark Phoenix 5 times, and you're gonna have to defeat Kang the Conqueror 5 times, so that way you can unlock Black Swan. And you're gonna want to get those because that's the method. method for how you are going to unlock Black Swan, the character, as well. So this is a really good update for the overall. You can also see that they've changed some of the icons and the way that they basically are looking at the world boss here. So like you can see, like Tier 3, Transcendence, and Tier 4 characters are basically available to be used inside all these. Black Swan is Tier 4 only, so you can only use Tier 4 characters inside Black Swan. So that's giving you a reason to build your roster so that way you can play into here. Now, that would mean absolutely nothing if the rewards weren't better than the previous World Boss Legend characters, and they are. So they improved the rewards on the Black Swan stages, so there are better rewards, and the rewards get better as you go up in rank. Conqueror's list, tier list, they are better. So Black Swan's Conqueror level can be cheesed up to level 200, and then you can see the Conqueror effect is upgraded along with acquiring Odin's Blessings chest, Dimension CTPs, and Tier 3 growth materials. So the Conqueror effect that's applied to Black Swan is basically also there for King the Conqueror, depending on his Conqueror level as well. That's amazing to me that they finally are hearing, you know, the player base, and they're improving the reward system for the characters. So you're going to be able to unlock the mighty CTP of energy, regeneration. All the CTPs, with the exception of the CTP of conquest, are going, and CTP of legend as well, are going to be the veteran CTP, excuse me, are going to be available as awards inside of the Black Swan stage. Cosmic Cube fragments are going to be acquired at a 100% rate from Legend Plus difficulty, which doesn't really necessarily matter. CCF is not like something that's like hard to get. What's hard to get really is the rewards for, you know, tier 4ing. So, you know, these and these, your carbonadiums and your life seeds, those are hard to get, and so those are improved overall. But the most important thing here is that I want to point out is that they now have a pity system. So there's a pity system for your Titan records, right? So if you don't receive a Titan record in 10 tries, then you will get one. To be honest with you, I think this should be lessened from 10 to 5, because if I play 5 times inside a World Boss stage, World Boss Legend stage, especially for some of the work that's being asked to be put in here, I should basically get a fucking CTP, a Titan's record. It shouldn't be like I'm playing and this is like diminished returns over here. I get it. You know, they're really still trying to sell that shop inventory of where they sell you Titan records, but whatever. So that's the Titan's guarantee system is basically going to be put inside there. So, you know, no real complaint about this. You know, they also changed it up as well. So like now your characters that you have inside of there, those characters are going to be based on, we'll have to see how it plays out in the game, but essentially the Titan records are going to be split between Null, Mephisto, Ultron, and Gore. So I think it was like Combat, Blast, Speed, and Universal. I think that's what it was. It's not listed in the patch notes. 3RL showed it on the stream last night, but we'll have to see how it actually plays out there, if that's what it is. If it is, I'm not necessarily like mad about it, but I'm also not ecstatic about it, because I like the idea of just being able to get any of the world Titans records from those. I don't want to have to roll to go to Null for a combat book. I don't want to have to play Mephisto to get a blast book. That's how it was inside Ultimate. I just preferred it the way it was, where it's just you can see here all of the books are available to me in all of the World Boss Legend stages. So I'm hoping they haven't changed that, because I'm just hoping they haven't changed that. I'm really hoping that they haven't changed that. I like the idea of just being able to get the books from here, not being like, if I'm missing out on a book, then I got to go play Mephisto for Blast. If I'm missing out on a book, I got to go play. I don't want to do that. I really prefer the idea that the books were popping up to me in any one of those inside there. So I'm hoping they haven't changed that. Anyways, so let's get back into this anyways, right? So the World Boss improvements that they've made as well is, like I said, the difficulty tab. Today's World Boss is the Null, Mephisto, Infinity, Ultron, and Gore World Boss stages. The difficulty level on those is going to be muted as well. So like they're toning those down. Kang the Conqueror and Dark Phoenix. Those world boss legend stages are going to be optimized for convenience. So like Kang the Conqueror's long ass transition animations, those are going to be reduced. Dark Phoenix's her third skill, where she puts all of the beams down on the floor and you're dodging those beams, those are going to be improved as well. We didn't get to see what those improvements look like, so we'll have to see what they are. Not to mention they're going to be resetting all of the world boss challenge stages and stuff like that as well. So the rewards that you previously got, those will be reset, so then you can replay those if you've been doing it. So we'll have to see. So all the first clear rewards basically are going to be reset. Also, the world boss unlock conditions are also going to be reset. So like for instance, for Null, it's just going to be clear the story 8-3, own 3 or more tier 3, tier 4 potential transcendent heroes, and then like unlock Thanos, unlock Null, unlock Gore kind of type things inside there. So like we'll basically see how those things basically look. They have some other minor changes in there for like some of the things like Blade Twister and how they look and how they move and stuff like that is going to be in there. That's basically how it is. We're going to get artifacts that are also added to the world bosses. So like by playing any of these world bosses and moving up in tiers, you're now going to be able to have the access to their artifacts directly inside there. And the higher you get, the higher the artifact that's going to probably be available as a chance to drop. Which brings us to the artifacts that we have for the new characters, for Satana, for Damien, and for Black Swan. I'm not exactly enthused for these characters at all, to be perfectly honest with you. I think Satana's is really good looking because she's already basically going to be in the leadership role, where she's going to basically be boosting everyone for the fire attacks and stuff like that. So she's going to be a really good leadership for any fire type element damage type characters. And then her artifact basically helps out even further because it applies to universal type allies. I wish this was all allies, so that way it didn't really make a difference on fire. And she's going to increase all basic damage by 20%. So I think in some respect, what it does is basically, like for instance, I think one of the best places for this is going to be like when you compare her to let me see real quick, Ghost Panther, I think it is, right? So let me see if I have it in here. Who do I have? Let's see. So I think it's like Ghost Panther, right? Like, do I not have? Yeah, so like Ghost Panther, for instance, like you're using Ghost Panther mostly because his leadership, his passives and stuff like that really help support like a character inside here. So you can see like increased fire damage by 50, 45, 15, and then you can see here he gives an additional, like, to all allies, the critical rate and the fire damage by 30%. Well, it's going to be interesting to see if he's supplanted in some regards by a character like Satana. You equip a CTP of instinct on that character, and then you roll with her because of the 70% fire, the increased 35% fire element damage. It'll be interesting to see basically. And then she gets the universal effect where she's going to do an addition to universal type allies for all basic attacks by 20% if you get her artifact. Definitely good looking thing there. So we'll have to see what it is. And then Damien Hellstrom hits himself. He increases fire damage by 30% of fire resist, so basically the Thor effect, and increases basic damage dealt to supervillain faction by 15%. Basically, he'll make his way outside of being my low tier Shadowlands clear character, and then probably somewhere in the higher tier for Shadowland character for this. That's basically it. Thanos's artifact is going to be improved. So you can see here it went from critical rate, critical damage increases to increase basic damage to superhero faction and supervillain faction by 20% inside there. Future pass rewards are looking pretty good because of these icons, like 100%. The icons are looking absolutely bonkers. That is Thanos's. I want that. Even Black Swans looks absolutely amazing. Like, and then we even get Satana's, and she looks really cool. And then somewhere thrown out of nowhere, and hopefully not meaning anything necessarily, is a Captain America icon. I'm hoping, I don't know where that came from for Captain America, but I'm praying to God that is nowhere there. And if you look at the future pass rewards, essentially the Satana icon is in the legendary pass, and then the mythic pass as O King Majesty is as Thanos is inside there. I am highly tempted to do the future pass reward upgrades just for that Thanos icon inside there. So they've made some other improvements to the game as well. Let's just jump into those really quickly and talk about them. So the upgrade system for the ESO 8 has basically been improved. So essentially what they did is a batch upgrade system inside of here. So you can basically select the rewards that you want to upgrade, and then you can move on. You can move that along. I am starting to basically pare down on mine because they take up so much inventory space. Shield support bonus thing that doesn't really, you know, it's like whatever. The rewards from there are just not so great for me to be purchasing on a bi-monthly basis. Just, yeah, it just ain't there. Also over here, they're going to be adding the daily tasks. So like all your daily challenges are basically going to be able to be accessed right here. So that way you can keep track of whatever daily challenges and the rewards that you need to basically unlock. So that's a good little quality of life update as well. Also, your chest for story fragment chest, they've basically added a batch system for that one, so that's really good. So you'll be able to just upgrade without having to worry. Dimension missions, instead of you having to go like into dimension missions and clear 10, you can now just use that to just do a clear count fully of up to 40 because that's where the top end rewards, and then you just get diminished returns out there. They've upgraded the upgrade system for the artifacts, so that way you can just set it to max or set it to levels and stuff like that, and just let it auto enhance inside there. So I think that's like a good one, just because it's like a quality of life kind of change inside there. Other than that, not a whole lot that they talked about. We'll have to see if there's any surprises behind the wall for what we haven't seen. A really good update. I think, you know, like you said, the majority of players are playing World Boss Legend. It's the reason why we play the game, that and Giant Boss Raid. Realistically, PvP I think is like a secondary to this, unless you're like one of the high-end spenders. You're really probably just autoing Otherworld battle and timeline battle. Tell me I'm wrong, and you know, I'll figure it out, but that's just the truth of the matter in my opinion. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Sorry it took so long, but there was some deep goodness inside here that I really wanted to get to. Until next time, guys, peace.